During his public ministry, Jesus taught his chosen disciples many things about being citizens of the kingdom. But it seems that they had difficulty with one basic concept, and that is the nature of greatness in the kingdom. On one occasion, Jesus and the 12 passed through Galilee from the Mount of Transfiguration to the city of Capernaum, and on the way the 12 argued among themselves. When they reached the house in Capernaum, Jesus asked them about the subject of their discussion. Perhaps embarrassed, they didn't answer because they had been arguing about who would be the greatest in the kingdom. Mark 9, verses 33 through 37. Jesus answered their question for them. If anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all. Verse 35. It is probable that his answer surprised them. However, that wasn't the end of the matter. As Jesus traveled to Jerusalem with his disciples for the last time, the mother of James and John brought her two sons to Jesus and requested a favor from him. She wanted her sons to sit closest to him on his right hand and on his left hand in the kingdom. She wanted her sons to have positions of honor in this coming kingdom. Matthew 20, verses 20 through 28. Well, when the other 10 apostles heard of the request, they were indignant with James and John, who were apparently behind their mother's request. Likely the other apostles were upset that these sons of Zebedee had beaten them to the punch. Mark's parallel account shows that Jesus used this occasion to emphasize to the apostles how their relationship to one another was to differ from the way that the rulers of the Gentiles lorded over their citizens. Whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. Mark 10, verses 43 through 44. In that way, they would be like their master, who came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Verse 45. During the final week of Jesus' life, Jesus pronounced several woes against the scribes and the Pharisees in Matthew 23. He described them as loving the attention of others and seeking honor for themselves. In contrast, Jesus instructed the disciples not to seek titles or accolades that elevated them above their fellows. He said, "The greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted." Verses 11 and 12. A few days later, Jesus observed the Passover with his apostles on the night of his betrayal. In the previous weeks, Jesus had informed the apostles of the events soon to transpire: his betrayal to the Jewish leaders, his death at the hands of the Gentiles, and his subsequent resurrection. Matthew 20, verses 17 through 19. The mood at the supper appears to have been one that was quite somber, and Jesus informed the apostles that one of them would betray him. Luke 22, verses 14 through 23. It is amazing that in these circumstances the apostles once again disputed among themselves as to which of them was to be regarded as the greatest. Luke 22 and verse 24. John's Gospel doesn't record this Passover observance, but tells the story of Jesus washing the apostles' feet on that same night in John 13. The apostles' surprise at his action is seen in Peter's initial refusal to allow his feet to be washed in verse 8. This was a task that was usually reserved for servants or slaves. This was not something that was appropriate for the master. And I suspect that Jesus' actions were prompted by the continuing competition among the apostles to be considered the greatest in the kingdom. When he had finished washing their feet, Jesus said to them, "Do you understand what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for I am so. If I, then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought also to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that you also should do just as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say unto you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him." It certainly seems that the apostles were slow to learn the lesson of greatness in the kingdom. Yet perhaps we shouldn't judge them too harshly. It seems that the disciples today sometimes have trouble with this same principle. In the business world, the person who climbs the corporate ladder to a position of authority over many is considered a success. Although we definitely can find public examples of people who serve others, common opinion in our culture is that serving someone else is humiliating or degrading. I want to be served, not to serve. In contrast, as kingdom citizens, we need to use what God has given us to serve others as good stewards of God's varied grace. 1 Peter 4 and verse 10. Thank you for joining us for our program today, and may God bless you with a wonderful day.